right, I think we're about live. Let's wait and see if we get some folks tuning in. Gonna give it just a minute or two here, see if we get some viewers to pop up before I get started. Let's see. What the heck? I'm getting... look at this. Here comes some folks. I gotta run over to Nightbot real quick. Yeah, look at that. We've got some warnings already for some folks who are being little unhinged here. Let's just give this a second and make sure everything's synced up and running. Greetings, lame. Love that. All right. We may have to punt someone already. Welcome. My name is Jeff Fritz. I know a bunch of you have seen me before. I'm a program manager on the .NET team, and we're going to do a little bit of live coding. I'm coming to you from a brand new location this week. I'm coming to you from the beach. I took the company credit card, got the family on the plane, took off, said, we're going for a holiday down on the beach. Okay, no, not really. We're actually in the mountains. And that's where we are. We're in the mountains. No. Okay, fine. I'm still here in my office. And actually, to be perfectly honest, I got a chroma key set up this week. So I've been tinkering and playing with that a little bit. And I'm on a brand new machine. In case you haven't noticed, I'm at high def. I'm at full 1080p. That should be pretty cool to see. And should make it a little bit easier to see some of the code that I'm working on, because we're going to open things up and have a full, really wide screen that we're going to be looking at. A number of new followers this week. Thank you so much, everybody, for following. I know some of my friends started retweeting and encouraging folks to check out the stream. I really appreciate that. And full disclosure, some of the bosses, folks named Scott and some other folks, they found out about the stream and they're checking it out, and they want to see what we can do here. So I appreciate their support. It means a lot to see what we can do here going forward. So a couple things, of course, that I want to touch on to start off the stream today. How's the sound? Is the music too loud? I feel like it might be a little bit too loud in my ears. Let me know there on the chat what you think. I appreciate everybody tuning in, whether it's on Mixer or on Twitch. Brendan says sound level is good. Cool. Since I moved everything over to another machine, I had to reconfigure everything. So I've been spending the past day or two checking all my configuration to make sure that it all lines up right. Developers. And I've got a new follower celebration that I configured there. Thank you, Mr. Balmer. And welcome, Yev Geller. I appreciate your follow. I hope you enjoy visiting us here on the stream today. So let me do some other housekeeping here. Of course, the music playing in the background, this is Carl Franklin's Music to Code By. He has now started with an app called Music to Flow By. There it is above me. Check that out. Isn't that cool? The little overlay of me in the corner. No longer me hiding in that corner. In that corner, I'm now right here. And kind of embedded in... I've always wanted to be part of the web, but never in the web like this. But hey. So, Music to Flow By is Carl's new app that plays this great music that you hear in the background. Yev Geller, thanks. Looking forward to a good coding session. I'm here because of Mr. Hanselman. Thanks, Scott, for sending folks over my way, and I appreciate you joining us, Yev. Right, I'm assuming Yev Geller, thanks so much for joining us. We'll have a good time today. So, Music to Flow By is Carl's new app that plays some of this cool music. If you subscribe to it, you're going to get a bunch of music for free, I believe it is. Works on Android, iOS. Check it out, musictoflowby.com. Carl has graciously given me permission to use his music here in the background during the stream. Today's song that I'm going to be playing during the stream, this is called Cyan. This is part of the third album that he released back in 2015 called Music to Code By, Chapter 3. You can check that out at mtcb.pwop.com. But Music to Flow By is Carl's new effort here. Hats. We talk about hats every time. I've got a great hat collection, and I wear a different hat every stream. Today's hat, I got to go with my Philadelphia Eagles. I'm a big football fan. I showed you my Soul hat last time on Saturday. This time, I got to wear my Philadelphia NFL team, the Philadelphia Eagles hat. This is an older hat. This is like 2 years old. It's Old Faithful, and the team won their division this weekend, and unfortunately at the same time, star player, quarterback, got injured. He's out for the year. Feels bad, man, but we'll see how they do come playoff time. So that's today's hat. Other items of housekeeping. I have a follower goal of 500 followers. If we can hit 500 followers by the end of January, I will host a live ASP.NET Core workshop, 8-hour workshop here on the stream. I put a bar up there on the top from Stream Labels, and it's not updating properly. I don't get it. I've got, you can see the other label up there. I've got 107 followers, but it only shows 98 here on my stream label. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. We may need to fix that. We may need to try something else. So it's 107 followers, and we'll see what we can do to fix that bar, see what we can do to force that to update. Because our friends at Stream Labels, they're having a problem there, it looks like. Brendan says, regarding the NFL, what's a win? Is that a thing? Yes. Brendan's a friend from the Cleveland area, and if you don't follow sports, you don't follow the National Football League. The Cleveland Browns, Brendan's local team, they haven't won a game in, is it a year and a half now? It's been a long time. They're 0-13 this year. It's not good. Gotta have coffee. Good morning, America. Good morning, Internet. Gotta have my cup of coffee here as we're getting ready to code. So, excuse me, I've got a little bit of a cough here, a little bit of a cold. Let's start talking about our projects. I'm going to roll over to my GitHub. There are 2 projects that I've been working on here. DJ Vortex, thank you for following. And trust that Steve Ballmer to hide me. What's that? End code? Coffee and Code. Yeah, that's right. So if you are new here, if you want to be notified when I'm going to be streaming, if you're on Mixer, if you're on Twitch, click that, give me a follow, click that follow button, and we'll let you know when I'm going live here on the stream. This is my GitHub. You can see for the past year, open source hasn't been my job too much, right? I'm supporting open source, but I'm not actually doing too much committing and writing code. So, I've been doing some more recently, as you can see, as we get further to the side. So, and I've been focused on 2 a little bit fun projects. And the first is Configuration Builders. That is a collection of simple and useful configuration builders for .NET 4.7.1. And I've also been working on a Visual Studio extension called Epic Build Music. There you go. Epic Build Music it's an extension that's intended to make it more fun to write code in Visual Studio. And I'm talking 2017 Visual Studio, right? The full version you're going to run on Windows. I don't know about you, but I live by kind of the thought that when work is fun, it stops being work and it starts being something enjoyable and something that kind of fades away and I have a good time doing. So my thought here with this epic build music is I want to play some fun music, some fun sound effects, and have that happen in the background while I'm building, while I'm waiting, because I've got that big ugly project that, you know what, it's going to take a long time to build. It's a lot of projects in my solution, whatever your configuration might be. I want it to build quickly and make it feel like it's building quickly by having other fun things going on. So inside Epic Build Music, we're going to trigger some sound effects, some music to make that more enjoyable. And I mentioned a little bit about Configuration Builder. Now, I'm really excited because this week, today on the stream, I'm going to jump in and I've got a couple pull requests that we have to review before we start any coding. And it's from some of you, some of the followers, some of the viewers here on the stream, and I appreciate that so much. Thank you for contributing to these. They're little projects that I think should be fun, something interesting so that we can all learn a little bit. If you see me talking about the Visual Studio extension, I told you I don't build extensions for my day job, but it's something I wanted to learn a little bit more about. So I started this project. So we'll take a look at some pull requests I think that I have over there, and I know I have a Configuration Builder pull request or two hanging out there as well. Let me check the chat room real quick here. Check digits. Pick a job you love, and you'll never work another day in your life. That's why I'm a developer. Absolutely. That's a great way to put it, check digits. Thank you for adding that here. Organic IT. Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Organic IT. How's it going out there on the West Coast? Thanks for coming back and joining us again here on this fine Tuesday morning. You missed me. I was out on the beach, man. It was great. You should have seen the view. Okay, not real. All right. I want to take a look at configuration builders first. Now, configuration builders, this is a feature that we added to .NET Framework 4.7.1 to allow you to insert features, insert project configuration, insert application configuration into your applications, so you can continue to use the configuration manager inside the .NET Framework, still reference app settings, connection strings, all those things, and still get data from a third-party source. Now, I thought I had a pull request come in here for this. I know I had some chatter coming in on this on an RSS support. Here it is. CodeBytes TV subscribe. Thank you so much, CodeBytes TV. There's never a need to subscribe here. I'm not going to be doing too much that you need to pay for, but I appreciate your support. Thank you. This tune goes out to all you lovely, lonely coders out there. Tune into WFRTZ. And Sinclairinator is now following. Now, that's my old celebration. I wonder why that's coming through instead. Is that coming over from Mixer? We'll have to take a look at that. So here we go. Here's the chatter. I wanted to add... let me back up here, unwind a little bit. For these configuration builders, I wanted to build a little project so that you could load configuration from any files. I actually got smoked by somebody on one of our blog posts announcing configuration builders. Somebody was saying, you know what? I can't stand working with XML files. I don't want to work with XML files. I like any files. Maybe they liked autoexec.bat and right, the old configsys.ini, right? config.sys, right? The windows.ini files. I don't know, but they like the ini files, and they said I want to be able to configure my application with ini files. All right, so I wrote a configuration builder that allows you to use ini files. You can find that here inside the project, and you can use ini files to load up your configuration. And I've even got a sample that shows you how to do that. Now, one of the other ideas, I had two other ideas I wanted to support. I wanted to support YAML files, because that's the modern, cool way that folks are loading configuration now. And I also wanted to support RSS. The idea there being, you could stand up a simple web server that serves RSS information, and then set up your applications, maybe in a Docker container, and have them pull configuration simply from that RSS web server. So you have a configuration server. Now, some folks already have features that do this for distributed computing, and you could check that out. But I wanted to get a simple RSS configuration builder, and it looks like Giancarlo checked this out and provided some feedback here and a RSS configuration builder, and he's got a fork here with some unit tests and some information over here in his project. It looks like Giancarlo hasn't submitted a pull request yet, but I think we can take a look at his code, and let's offer him some feedback here on the issue. Before I go over there, I want to take a look at the chat room. Is there really, is that software engineer? Is there really a WFRTZ? Is that really some radio station's call letters? Let me know if you find that. And Sinclairinator is on Mixer. Now, Sinclairinator, did you used to program on an old Sinclair device? Good. I mean, very cool, you know. I much respect. My first computer I programmed on was a Commodore 64. I was just a kid at those days. But let me know. And then Brendan, if anyone here has Amazon Prime, you can connect your account, get a free Prime sub each month, so you could subscribe using that. Absolutely, you can certainly do that. And Twitch will give you a bunch of loot for various games that you might be playing if you hook up your Amazon Prime account to Twitch. There's no need to subscribe. I'm really doing this because I want to get as many folks as possible to see and learn about .NET and software development. No real WFRTZ that I know of. Call letters are usually 3 or 4. You're right. So is there a WFRZ? Okay, let me step back for a minute. My Twitch stream and my Twitter account, you can see it up there, is C#Fritz. My Mixer stream is C#Fritz. The reason that I chose C#Fritz, some of you know this, most of you probably don't, is there's already somebody out there who had the Jeff Fritz Twitter account, and I think the Twitter account I think is owned by a guy who's a CEO of an insurance company. And then I went and looked for Jeffrey Fritz, and I think that's a lawyer. And I've reached out to both of these individuals and said, look, you don't even have 1,000 followers, you know. I'm doing something with this. They weren't even tweeting at the time. They had the accounts for three years or so, and I said, hey, I'd love to, you know, work something out so that I can have the Jeff Fritz Twitter account. And didn't happen. They said, no, I want this. All right, so I went and tried to get the web address, jefffritz.com, and that's the same folks showing up. So I started C# on the Fritz as my blog, right? And I started using Jeffrey T. Fritz to SEO, to search engine optimize, my own name. Okay. And when I tried to make the Twitter account C# on the Fritz, it was too long at the time. So I dropped the on the, and it just became C# Fritz. Fast forward to this year, I'm sitting in Stockholm. I was at Dev Intersection in Stockholm, Sweden. Hello to any of our friends that are in Sweden tuning in. And I'm sitting there with a couple of the other speakers, and my friend Miguel Diacaza is sitting next to me, and Miguel says to me, what is this C# Fritz? I don't understand this. Why aren't you Jeff Fritz? Why aren't you Jeffrey Fritz? What is this C# Fritz? And I start telling him the same story I've told you. And he says, well, why C#? Why not VB? Why not F#? Miguel, you're onto something there. Maybe I should be VB Fritz, because VB was my first. Actually, BASIC was my first programming language, and then VB6. When I was in college, I learned VB, and that was my first real programming language. They taught me Fortran, C++, all that other stuff, but VB was my thing. And so I got into VB, and I said, well, let me look up VB Fritz and see if I can get that Twitter account. And sure enough, somebody else has a Twitter account. Well, what about F# Fritz? You know, that's still a good Twitter account. And I got F# Fritz as a Twitter account. Now, spoiler alert, later this month, maybe next month, I want to do a series where I want to spend time on stream learning F#. I don't know F# very well. I know a little bit. I know enough to be dangerous. But I want to spend some time learning F#, and I think it might be a good exercise to learn that with you. So there you go. Story time with Jeff. And that's why I'm C# Fritz and why I've kind of done some of these things. So let's see. Software engineer, no real WFRTZ. I'm so darn good at it. Takes some money. Well, thank you. Well, I'll try and put some of that back into this, and we'll see about it. There is a WFRZ TV station in Montgomery, Alabama. Okay. JScript Fritz. Oh, and look at this. Paul Harvey. And now you know the rest of the story. Oh, loved his tone and the way that he approached this. Really cool stuff. All right, so let's take a look at Giancarlo's code that he's been writing. Let's see. Reach out to Matthias Brandwinder for F#. Okay. I actually work with Philip Carter on the team. I might send him some information. And I'm still working on trying to get interviews working on here. My challenge that I'm running into, just to finish up housekeeping before I get knee deep into code and stop talking about some of these things. My challenge is that when I'm using Skype seizes my entire video card. And that feels really bad, because then my streaming starts to slow down. I don't want to do that. So I started looking at Discord, and my friend Brent Schooley from Twilio recommended trying Discord because it's, particularly when you're doing audio, works really well, works nicely. And I'm not sure about that one yet. And then I talked to my friend J.R. Cook from the, I'm going to get this right, from the Well Met Hearthstone podcast. I'm a Hearthstone player. I listen to their podcast. Shout out to the guys over there. And they suggested that I try Skype, and when you do the screen sharing, that's when you're going to start to feel things really nail down and become a problem. So I'm not sure about that. My real challenge, though, is when I start sharing that Skype, when I embed the Skype video, it also slows down Visual Studio. And a coding stream without Visual Studio, it's half a stream. So Brendan's saying Discord is what a lot of folks on Twitch use. So I might give that a shot. We'll take a look. I'm going to need to run some more tests. Another thought I had was I now have 2 laptops, and I'm using laptops here, Ultrabooks. I was using a Yoga 910, and I'm now using Surface Book 2, the 15-inch with the performance base, fully loaded, the great NVIDIA video card. Really cool stuff. So I'm actually, it was requested that I blog about my setup. I'll blog about that tomorrow. F# would be rad, but what about Q#? Oh, too soon on that one. Can I use VS Code? Well, the stuff that I'm working on right now is .NET Framework, so I can't use VS Code to edit that code and compile just yet. Or I don't even know if they're planning on that, but VS Code won't work with .NET Framework. It can't compile that code. So, all right. Enough about that. Let's talk about Giancarlo and his code that he's got started over here in his repository. Now, he hasn't submitted a pull request yet, so he has some modifications to my solution file. I'm going to scroll down here in the CS proj. He's included service model. I like where you're going here, Giancarlo. For those of you that don't know, I'm also the program manager for WCF. So he's included one of my namespaces. CodeBytes TV, that was me. Can't wait. I'm trying to start a stream too, and I figure why not mimic the. I am the master. I'm just a guy in a chair with a green screen and a bunch of lights around me, and hanging out on the beach. Okay. So RSS Configuration Builder. Here's the configuration builder that Giancarlo wrote. So just taking a look here. So feed data, he's setting up a dictionary. Cool. When he initializes, he's going to... initialize is how we set up our configuration builder. This is called for the line inside your config file, inside your, whether it's web config or app config, that says add, and then write the name of your provider. So he initializes, and then he's going to check to see if the feed tag is specified. So feed tag it's an attribute called feed. Cool, I can live with that. And he's going to generate a configuration error exception. Okay, if it's missing, that's good. So we're making it required. Scrolling down, and then he's going to try to create a connection to to a URI, the feed tag, it's an absolute, and he's going to output the result, and if he gets an error, he's going to throw an invalid URL exception. Cool, I like that. And if it is not valid, he's going to throw a URI. If it isn't valid RSS feed, cool. So after initialize finishes, he's going to go get settings from feed. Tender Meerkat 4, thanks for joining us. I appreciate the follow. I'm guessing that's over on Mixer. Thanks so much for joining us. I don't know why the Mixer is showing the old alert. I like my new alert with Steve Ballmer. But that puts me, it says 109. I don't think that count is correct, because that count was coming from just Twitch before. We'll have to take a look. So, all right, get settings from feed. So this is how he's loading the settings from the feed. So XML reader create against the absolute URI, syndication feed load into my reader, and then for each item, if my feed data, if my dictionary, m underscore feed data. That's very Hungarian notation, isn't it? But if it contains the title from our syndication item, if it doesn't contain it, and it doesn't have a summary, continue. If it does have a summary, then he's going to load the feed data dictionary with the summary. Okay, that's cool. I like that. Catch, and then if there's some other exception, rethrow it. Well, that kind of makes sense. Okay. And they wrote some URI extensions here to go against the RSS 2.0 feed formatter. Okay. Now, the key parts to this abstract key value config builder are these two. I don't see. Oh, there they are. Are these two methods right here? Get all values and get value. Now, get value will return for one value that you're requesting. Go get me that value from the configuration. So if you're requesting a specific key, he's going to look in his dictionary. If it contains the key, he's going to return that value. Makes sense? I think we can simplify this, right? And we could turn this into a little bit less code, but maybe he's doing that so that he can handle an exception there if the key value doesn't exist. Excuse me. So I think I'm going to add a comment here. This could be shortened, simplified. If you're not going to examine and throw any exceptions. All right. Scrolling down a little bit. So we also included a sample project for us demonstrating how to use this feature, and it looks like he's actually hosting the RSS feed. So we specified the feed location is a local host. That's fine, and it references his RSS Configuration Builder. And inside of his sample project, he just goes and gets those settings, just like I did in the sample ini project. Let me scroll down here. Let's take a look at. So there's his project, and so what I'm not seeing in this, I don't see a sample service, right? This thing that's listening on 56.267. So I'm gonna just add a comment at the end. Looks pretty good. Can you include the sample RSS service, so that we have a complete integration test? I think that works. Yeah. Comment on that. Just going to take a look here back in the chat room. F sharp would be rad, but what about Q sharp? There was that. Software engineer, organic IT for F sharp. Believe so. There's a language extension too. I'm almost positive. Yes, VS Code. You can program against .NET Core with F sharp. Absolutely. Let me, gosh. Looking forward to your pull request. Thank you, Giancarlo. I appreciate your I appreciate your contribution. I'm looking forward to seeing that added into the project. Oh, and there's a link there. I'm not going to be able to click that link. Okay, I am going to go back to my projects now, and I'm going to jump over to the Visual Studio extension. Alright, so Epic Build Music. Let's take a look at this one. Oh, you know what? You're right, Organic IT. There's some folks that have been working on a F# built complete IDE environment inside of VS Code. They're doing some great work over there on that. So I do have a pull request staged here. Let's take a look at this one. I saw in my email that there was a lot of chatter around this, and it's from Check Digits. I think he's still in the chat room. Thank you for this. So let's see. Looks like we've got a couple items here. Yes, I know that. Wow. Hey, go away. So, thank you. Alright, so let's see. Corrected tab order of controls. Placed controls into a grid view. Cool, so that should help it look better and fit. Made controls fit, stretch into various columns of the grid view. Cool. Increase the font size and set bold to true on the music during build open button. So it's a little bit easier to see my button there on the view. Change text alignment of labels to be more beautilicious. I'm gonna have to use that word. That's a cool word, beautilicious. All right. Set design localizable to true to force strings to be emitted into general option user control resx. Cool. One of the things I had mentioned on my issues that was I wanted to be able to localize this. So that's cool. That's cool. Oh, my bad. All right. Let's see. Ionide. That's the name of the editor that they're working on. Very cool. So it has no conflicts. Let me and he's referencing localized options, accessible options, and user interface assistance. So I am going to, and this is going into dev. So I am going to squash and merge. Right? Is there a way for me to see this version of the pull request before I merge? Yeah, I can squash and merge and then pull it, and if I don't like it, I can back it out. Yeah, let's do that. So let's squash and merge, confirm, and that'll go into my dev stream. Alright, so now let me check out my dev stream. We'll open it up in Visual Studio and we'll take a look at some of the additions that Check Digits made here for me. So I am going to go into command window because all elite developers use the command window when they're working on in source control, right? So let me go and do Fritz, Epic Build Music, Git status. I should be in the dev branch. I am. So let's pull that. So, hey, there's Bruno. Welcome back, Bruno. Bruno's been here for a while and following along. Thanks so much. All right, so there's all these changes that we've got. Let's take a look-see at this. I'm going to go over to Visual Studio. And Visual Studio, of course, is not on the right screen. There we go. Let's stretch and make this the right size. Cool. And let's take a look at that project. See what we've got here. It's in my dev folder. All right. Oh, design doesn't love me. We'll come back to that. All right. So the changes that were made to look here. So it looks like we did a lot of user interface work. So let me go to that user control down here, and oh, that looks much better. Now I don't see that popping up. The bold there's 3 dots and it's not showing. We'll have to take a look at that. I have a couple unit tests here. I want to just make sure they still run properly. So it doesn't look like any changes were made that should impact these, but I still want to make sure that this works properly. And let's see here. The wife is texting me. I need to send her a quick response. It is under... So, she's somewhere where they need to know my email address. Yeah, okay, sure. All my unit tests run fantastic. And this looks pretty good. Let me see what it looks like inside my experimental instance of Visual Studio, inside the full options window. And CheckDigit says here in the chat room there are some code changes to support Bruno's language options, but none from me. Okay, that's fine. So from our last stream, I had requested Bruno's from Brazil. Do I have that right? And I said, hey, can you help me out and give me possibly a Portuguese translation for just these couple of lines of text here. So this should open up and allow him to be able to add that translation into our project. And of course, if you know another language, Spanish, French, whatever, you're welcome to submit a pull request with a translation for these couple items for your language. I would greatly appreciate it. You know, I don't want to be all American and all English all the time. He added it already. It's merged into this pull request. Stop it. Let me take a look. Oh, added Portuguese. There it is. Oh, cool. Thank you. Oh my gosh, that's great. And there it is. Awesome. Oh, this is the first time I'm opening the experimental instance of Visual Studio on this machine. It's the new machine blues, man. Let me bring this up because it's gonna ask me to sign in. And it's in the Solution Explorer too. Really? Let's check that out. Solution Explorer. I didn't even see it. Resources. There it is. There's my icon. Where's the resource? There's the resx. I'm blanking here. Where's the resource? But it would only be used if VS is running as Portuguese, just to avoid overwriting something. Expand my control. Ah, there it is. There's the Portuguese resource. Cool. Thank you. All right. And my other Visual Studio should be finishing loading here. So when I am streaming, the stream, the OBS, it grabs all my resources no matter what here. Let's see. Ah, here it is. Here's my experimental instance, and it's on my lower screen here. I'm just gonna reduce that from maximized and move it up into the screen. Now, the experimental instance of Visual Studio actually starts with all kinds of debugger information hooked into it, so that as a developer of a Visual Studio extension, I can hook in and actually debug part of Visual Studio, which, if you haven't worked on Visual Studio, feels really weird. But for those of us on the team, for folks that are building extensions, for third-party developers, folks that build tools that plug into Visual Studio, it's something that you kind of get used to. But the first time you start it up, it takes a little bit to get things running. All right, let me move this up and into the screen so it's on the stage, and yeah, here we go. Come on, move over, little fella. There we go. No, of course, it's on the wrong screen. No, Now I've really angered it. Wow. Let's see. Come on, dock to the side up here. There we go. And I don't want anything else on the side because I have my chat bar and all the other gizmos there on the side. Brendan writes, if OBS is consuming resources needed for Visual Studio, you could do a multi-computer setup. Yes. So that's something that I'm looking at here, is doing video out from one laptop so I can broadcast Visual Studio and things coming in from that laptop over here. That'll also help when I want to do interviews. So we're getting there. We're slowly building up to this. So I'm going to check out my options dialog here so I can see how this new layout works. Check digits. Are you sure it's the experimental instance and not the temperamental? That's a good one. That's not bad. It's quite temperamental. Let's see what we got going on here. See if anybody's chattering on Twitter. Bruno writes, come join and send some questions. They'll be answered live. Yes, I'll answer all of them live. Absolutely. And I see some of my colleagues retweeting and throwing some likes out there. Cool. That's great. Anybody getting static in the sound from Straight Butter? Are you getting any static? I hope not. Taking a look at my Twitch. Twitch is reporting I'm hitting about 2300K per second, so I'm hitting at 2.3 MIPS. Clear as a bell, according to check digits. Audio is clear. Yeah, let us know what you see there. And I'm still waiting for my options dialog to load. Yeah, check digits. It looks like Straight Butter is on Twitch as well. How about on Mixer? Everything still sound good on Mixer? I see there's 3 folks on Mixer. You can see the viewer count way up. It's over there in the top corner. How many folks are on each stream. And this is still loading. I think we broke it. I think we broke Visual Studio. So, yeah, I was told that some folks, when they're at work, their companies block Twitch, so you might be able to get in. You might be able to sneak in with Mixer. I had one person request that I try YouTube, but I think I've got things covered with these 2 services. And I feel like if I try and rebroadcast it to many services, it's gonna feel weird to be all over the place, and I don't have thousands and thousands of followers yet. Make room. I want to get more. More! We can always have more. Still loading. This feels weird. What's the other Visual Studio doing in the background here? I mean, I know... let me take a look at the output window. I mean, check out the memory here. I mean, we're still cruising, picking up memory here, and you can see all the things that it's doing here in the output window. And let me tell you, it feels weird the first time you're starting to watch Visual Studio do stuff from Visual Studio. All right, I'm gonna scroll down in here. It's almost as it's kind of like a double check. Like, oh my gosh, I'm debugging Visual Studio. I had a problem with not a problem. I had somebody from the Xbox team email me because they wanted to do something with NuGet, and I was like, oh my gosh, the Xbox team is emailing me, and you just kind of get used to it, you know. We're all coders just like everybody else, and this experimental instance is extremely temperamental for me. It's gotta be my machine just grabbing everything. Excuse me. Oh, there, finally Visual Studio came back. All right, where is it? Epic Build Music. There we go. Well, that looks a little bit better. It's still See the problem there? Check digits. I don't know if you could really see that on the stream, but the bottom half of these two controls is cut off. But it sure looks like it's working properly. Yeah. Let's see. Code Bytes. Working from home for the win. Absolutely. I can completely agree with that. The only thing I like about YouTube is that it can automatically publish the video after the stream. I haven't figured out that option for Twitch or Mixer yet. Twitch has an option. As soon as what I do, as soon as this stream is done, I go into my dashboard. There's a past recordings item in there. I can find the recording. I can right-click on it and say export, or there's the kebab button there, right? The 3 dots vertically, and I can say export, and then it'll send it over to YouTube for me. Bruno, you're debugging Visual Studio using Visual Studio. I know, isn't that so meta? I think that's a problem with the margins on the controls and/or padding. Yeah, I think you're right. And when it does the stretch, we're feeling that. But looks good. I like it. I'm gonna keep it, and I think I'm gonna merge it up here. And I'll close out some of those issues. So let me grab the control here, and let me go to. I don't have. Oh, there's Toolbox. It's over here. I don't want the toolbox though, do I? I want properties. There we go. Right? Let me dock the properties as a lower half of this. There we go. And gosh, it's so far away. It feels so good to work on high def. All right, so we want to set up like margin, right? Oh, look at that. You set up 333. What do we got here? Crankinator, OMG, network, not feeling too good for you this morning. I'm sorry about that, Crankinator. Dr. Blue, live streaming and programming together at last. I know, isn't it great? And I'm willing to take your suggestions of things you want to do. Drop me a line on Twitter, C#Fritz. You see my Twitter account up on the top. Or you can drop me a line if you want to send me an email, jeff@jeffreyfritz.com. That's my blog up top. So thank you, folks, for jumping in. All right. Yeah, the stream's labeled as creative. And actually, I tried to... thank you, Crankinator, for the follow. I appreciate it. I tried to... On Mixer, you can specify the game that you're playing. And I tried to set it to Visual Studio on Mixer, and it wouldn't let me do that. So I've got some feedback that I'm building a set of notes of feedback to send over to... There we go! Dr. Blue, thank you for joining us. And thank you, Mr. Ballmer, for announcing that this stream is all about developers. All right, let me see if we can fix this margin. So the margin, while we set it to 333, it's still not... It doesn't feel right. Right, it's not quite enough. Can I zoom in on this user interface? It'd be great if I could zoom in. You know, because it's so tiny on this screen. Let me see. So how do we open up and put some padding or something around there? Code Bytes TV, there is. Live do TV, is that it? Lived you? No, live edu. Ah, cool. Dev coaches, thank you so much for the follow, and thank you, Steve. All right, how are we gonna pop open this margin a little bit so we get a little bit more space around it? I know 3 is like where we want it to be, but it's right. There's like an inside padding to this or something that we want to do. The Dr. Blue is also one of my former coworkers. Oh, one of our friends from the Ohio office, right? Cool. Well, thank you for joining us. Decided to be educational. I hope I'm being a little bit educational. I hope you're learning from my mistakes so you don't make the same mistakes, right? And that was one thing that I wanted to make sure I did with this stream here. As an aside, I'm not a perfect developer. When I get on stage at a dev intersection or build or ignite, and you see me give a presentation, it's a very polished presentation that's been written and tested, and I've got backups upon backups sitting out there in case anything goes wrong, because it's literally my job watching it, right? The bosses are watching, the people named Scott, and that's okay. That's great. You know, I do want to be polished. I want to make sure I deliver a concise, good message for you folks. But I wanted this to be something a little bit more raw. I want you to see, actually, you know, and feel what it's like to develop together, right? This is pair programming with the internet, and when I do get the video working so that I can get that interview format working, I want to pair program with some of you. And actually, I set that as my 1,000 follower goal. We'll set up a long stream, and I want you to bring your projects in, and we'll pair program on them together. I'll help you live on the stream, and you'll get feedback from some of the folks here on the chat room as well. Let's see. Oh, cool. Appreciate it that I see you guys chatting with each other in Columbus, Ohio, home of the Blue Jackets. Blue Jackets. And the same division as my Flyers. All right. And I won't even get started with Ohio State because I'm a Penn State guy. All right. How can we make this a little bit better? So if I make those margins, if I change the margins there, it's going to feel weird. And I feel like, do I push the font size up and it'll make the... If I push the font size up, will it make the text box taller? Right, if I make that like 10, and it bleeds outside the cell, so that feels weird. So let's undo that. Maybe is it the cell height in the grid? Is that what we need to tune? So I haven't done, where is it? Layout panel, there we go, I think that's it. Auto scroll margin, no. Cell border style, column count, columns, okay. Margin, okay. Does anybody say bomb diggity anymore? Maybe. Not quite as much as I used to. Some friends in California say bomb diggity. I need to resize the rows in the grid. Cool, how do I resize the rows? So there's my rows. Will it... Size type. Percent, 50%. Span, multiple rows. It's supposed to be 50%, but it's... Will it grow if I just expand this a little bit? Hey, all right, now we're talking. So let's make the entire control a little bit bigger. And let's grab this. Yeah, how's that look? That feels better. Make the grid bigger by dragging it. See, I'm learning stuff about Windows Forms that I haven't done in too long. Thank you. All right, so let me save that. That should look and feel better. I'm going to commit my little bit of user interface change there because I'm really good at user interfaces. All right, git status. Yep, git add. No, I can do a commit A. I know folks say I shouldn't be doing that. The row height is too small for the font size. Yeah, there we go. So I think we have that fixed. Increased row height to better fit the font size. And I will git... What? Git commit amend. What are we doing here? Oh, I didn't git config. I thought I was already logged in. Alright, anyways, fine. Global user.name Jeffrey T. Fritz. And then email. And then that's my normal email address. Cool. You may want to fix the identity with git commit amend reset author. Spell it right, Jeff. Spell it right. Yep, good. Fantastic. So now if I git log, and now it has my there. And there's Ian Barker with check digits with his submission. Fantastic. All right. So now let me git push, and that should go up, right? And this is because I just configured this machine. I didn't have all my Git configuration here. Maybe why the font was not right on the button too. Yeah. I'm only likely seeing the tops of the dots, which would make it look non-emboldened. My name is not secret. My name is. No, it's not. Alright, so I'm saved. I pushed that up, and I'm gonna push that now into the master branch, right? So I'm gonna do that as a pull request so I can squash all those changes. So do a new, and I'm comparing against dev. So here's all my changes. Right, going into master. Can't automatically merge. Feels bad. That's fine. So what's it grumpy about? What doesn't it like? So this always feels weird. Right? Yeah, if I create the pull request and then go to squash it, I want to squeeze out all of this. Right, if I try and flip this around. So there are these couple of changes that are in the master branch that need to come down into the dev branch before I merge. Okay, so let's take care of that. So I'm gonna do a git checkout master. I'm gonna do a git pull so that I get that content. Sounds like I'm popping a zit. I need some. Well played. Well played. All right, so everything is up to date. Am I popping my P's a little bit too much? I do have a pop filter if I need it. All right, let me do a git checkout of dev, and then I will git merge master. Yeah, look at all that fun. Ugh. All right. Yuck. Just yuck. Not squashing code comment. No. I'm trying to get my master content down into the dev branch so then I can push it up without having any more of this problem here. This makes me cringe. This is one of these things that I just hate having to deal with. Alright, so let's start. I'll go into Epic, Build Music, Core, and I'm going to run Visual Studio Code to do the editing here because Visual Studio Code for managing the merge operation is actually really nice. Yes, welcome. Alright, so check this out. It highlighted in blue the files that need a little bit of help here. So let's start clicking into them. So here's my CS proj. Not right now. So if I scroll down in here, it should show me, check this out. So here's the current change, and here's the incoming change, where it's changed content, right? I want the current value. I don't want this new one, because my current one still has things that I need. So I can accept the current change that includes these values, and it automatically gets rid of all that other stuff for me. So I'm going to save that. Okay, let me go to the next one here. Yes, I don't want to install that right now. So system resources was added, so I'm going to accept current change. So here we go. Is initializing is down in this lower one. I think I'm going to end up accepting the current change for most of these. Yeah. Yeah, let's do that. Good. And then the resource manager. Cool. That's something that check digits added here. That's fine. I think I'm accepting the current change on all of this. Yeah. Cool. This is easy. Cool. All right. Let's see. I see something running in the background there that shouldn't be. Good. All right. Next file. All right. So here. All right. This is the setup for the control. Oh yeah. I want the current change because it has the layout panel. So I'm going to accept that one. Let's see if there's anything else. There's one more down here. Yep. This one. Go away. What do we got here? So, you can see where the changes are. If I look in the scroll bar, it actually shows me where they are. So I'm going to accept the current change. And that looks good. I build music options. And it's the phantom space error there. Nice. Nice. So let's save everything. I'll do a file. Come on. File. Save all. Okay. Let's do a git status. So I worked through everything in core. The package and the CS proj up one I need to take a look at. So let's go there. Epic build music. And I'm going to close this Visual Studio Code and let's open one here. And I'll take a look at those two files. VS added some things when I turn on the resource. The resource manager was added by Bruno. Cool. VS Code is saving the day. Really cool. I'll keep it in mind. Yeah, right. It's nice to have a rich toolbox that we can refer to and get some great features out of. Right, that make our job as developers simpler. All right. Let me zoom in here. Cool. So build music package is here in blue. Let's see what was changed here. There's my change right there. Advise solution events. This was a suggestion that was made by, I forget who, to use the null propagation operator instead of this if. So I am going to accept the current there. That's good. That's the only change there. And then my CS proj has a change we're going to need to look at, and it's right here. And it was an app config that was added. All right, that's fine. Save that. And then I think we're good. Git is awesome, but can be a real pig when things are non-standard. Ain't that the truth? All right, so I think I have all my files saved. Good. The last one is test CS proj inside my test project. So let's take a look at that file. And I love the syntax highlighting for the conflict that Visual Studio Code is doing for me. Oh, and this was the rename that I did of our unit tests the other day. So I will accept my current change on those. And we should be good to go. Do a git status. I'm going to do a git add. Do I have to do a git add? I think I do. Fritz Epic build music core. Can I cheat? Can I cheat? Maybe? I'm going to go back into Visual Studio Code here up at the top, and I'm going to see if I can... Yeah! So I've already got a couple stage changes. I'm going to just stage everything here. Go away. I don't need that right now. Stage everything. Yes. Fixed merge conflicts. Cool. All right. Let me go back over here. Is that too small? I think that's too small. It looks too small. It's too small. That's probably a little bit better. All right, now let's get status. Yes. All right, so let's get push now. And I should have the, I should be able to merge that now going back the other way. So I'm gonna go master, dev. Yes! All right, create pull request. Completed refactoring to unit tests. Cleaned up options dialog. Yeah. Now that's a lot going on there. Squash and merge, right? Merging dev branch. Looks good. All right. No more pull requests. And things look good. Now, I'm not going to publish the extension just yet because I still want to add some more features, and I reached out to an old friend who's an expert in WPF, and I asked him to take a look at one of the issues that we have. And it was, so I asked him to take a look at this. I asked him to take a look at doing a fireworks or confetti overlay in WPF for us. So I want to hold off till I get that feature in and add some more to clean that up and make it look and feel cool. So we get a little bit more celebration before I publish a full version. I also want to get a logo. If any of you guys know how to build me a nice logo for Epic Build Music, maybe it's a trumpet, something simple that I can use as a logo that I can publish on the marketplace, that'd be really great. I'm gonna take this one and I'm gonna close based on Check Digit's contribution. Thank you for your contribution. Cool. But I want to get a logo in here before I publish this out there. You can download from the release, from my list of releases. Where is it? Releases. There's releases here somewhere. One release, and you can download that and you can check that out. Cooltext.com for logos. You know what? Cooltext. So I know what you're referring to there. Cooltext.com. And it does these logos. This is basically a plugin for the GIMP to generate text. I just want a square logo that I can put in the corner, right? Inside Visual Studio. That's a trumpet or something simple to show this. Organic.it, off to the office. Keep it up. Thanks a lot, Organic IT. I appreciate you joining us. Have a good day today. So I'll issue another release. You know what? I probably could issue the one release that is here is 0.2. I could issue a 0.2.1 that has the Portuguese localization and the user interface clean up a little bit. Let me do that real quick. Let's do that real quick. Am I still on master branch? No, I'm in dev branch, but I just pushed up. All right, let's do that. I'm going to increment the build number. I'm going to cut a release. Yes, reload solution. and make it available so you can download and use the extension in your Visual Studio. Like I said, I'm not publishing it to the marketplace just yet, but you can download and install it if you'd like. So to publish a release, I really should have some uniform way for you to use, for me to build something release quality. I think I need to reach out to one of my friends, Martin Woodward, to help set up some of that stuff, because he's a whiz at doing this stuff. And if you saw one of my first streams, I tried to use VSTS, and I had some problems with it. I was trying to build for a .NET Framework version that they didn't support yet. So might reach out to Martin and see if I can get some help configuring that. I want to set a version number for this of 0.2.1, so I'm going to go into my manifest, and I'm going to change my version number here to 0.2.1. I'm going to save that. I'm going to go into my properties and take a look at the assembly info here, and I'm going to force these to 0.2.1. There is a way to generate and get these numbers forced in there for you. I'm going to leave these as one. Now let's give these a proper number. There we go. Alright. Because now I am using this core class library. Rub some DevOps on it. Yes, I could reach out to the black shirt himself, ask him if he'd like to help out. We'll see. Donovan's a friend, and there's some other folks that I can contact also if Donovan's not available. So I've increased my build version numbers and all of those. Let me flip this to release. Save everything, and let's do a rebuild solution. Donovan reminds me of a friend from another job, the previous employer, named Brian. So every now and again, I when I'm thinking about Donovan, I want to say Brian's name. Don't do that. Okay, cool. And anything going on Twitter? The rebuild looks successful. Live streaming and coding together at last from Scott DePaul. Thank you, Scott. All right. I've got my build. I'm going to go find that releases over here. I'm going to add a tag. I want to add a tag, but I don't want this to stay in release mode for the tag. Let me throw it over back to debug. And let me do a git status. So there's my two assembly infos and the v6. Sinclairinator, this has been super awesome to watch. Gotta go now, but I'll definitely be back for future sessions. Thanks so much for joining us, Sinclairinator. Videos get saved off to YouTube, and there'll be a wrap-up post on my blog, and I'll have a link out to the release from there. Who is this? I can't. It's kind of small. How do you pronounce that? Inside? How do you pronounce the new person here in the chat room? Thanks for joining us. If you like what you're seeing, if you're a developer and you want to know when I'm broadcasting, give me a click of that follow button up top, and we'll have fun writing some code together. I'm finishing up a release here of my Visual Studio extension. Let me commit these changes. So I'm going to git commit a marked as v021. Oops. Forgot a -m switch. -a says include those modified files. -m says here's my message. And I forgot to tell it that was my message, my commit message. Let me take a look at my tags. I have v02. Let's add another tag, v021. And now I'm going to push and include my tags, push everything up to GitHub. Cool. And I should get that. There's my extra tag. No release notes yet. We'll write up some quick release notes. And let me push those changes into the master branch. So I'll create one more pull request. And I'm going to compare dev. Now see, why is it showing me all the files again? Is it because I did the squash and build? That feels bad. That feels really bad. Right? This is just going to get bigger and bigger and uglier. I shouldn't have to be merging everything every time here. If I create that, right, I've got all these files it's bringing every time. Is it because I didn't... Do I need to pull back into dev? Let's... Yeah, hang on. Let me check out master. Okay. Git pull. Ooh. Already clicked. Cool, thank you. I don't know why it didn't... It should have shown me. We should add a little celebrate thing for you joining us here, but maybe Streamlabels is taking its good old time loading up there. So that looks correct. Let me reload. Yep, everything looks good over here. All right. So I'm still in master. So if I do a git checkout dev, okay. If I do a git merge master, git status, okay. I'm gonna do a git push force, just to make sure I get everything lined up properly up there. Now if I go back over here, and let's compare to dev, see, it's still showing me everything. And that feels really bad. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Oh, I was offline when you followed. Okay. That's why we didn't see the little celebration. Well, thank you for joining us. I want my master build log here to be nice and clean. Right, so... And I also lost the pull request. What does git remote show? I'll be happy to show you. So I just have origin. And actually, what is it? There's a... to see the full list. Right, verbose-v. Alright, so there's my two. Yeah. But so... Right, I don't like that it's showing me everything every time. Feels bad. Feels really bad. Right? Because I don't want to push everything back in every time. What am I doing wrong here, chat room? Why am I getting, when I say new pull request and I look at dev, why am I getting all of my changes here for like the last 2 weeks instead of just the things that have changed since, right? If I do a git pull, I'm already up to date looking at my dev branch. Right? What happens if I do a git checkout master and do a git pull from dev? No. Git merge dev. Okay, so it merged in my changes, and then if I git push, I know I'm effectively working around GitHub. Okay, they're identical now. Good. Okay, so now, so I have 2 releases. There we go. All right, so here's 021. If I click on this one, I can actually click on this, and there is an, here we go, edit. And now I can start. So, first translation. Thanks to check digits. Oh, it's not letting me tag Bruno. for their contributions. I spelled contributions wrong. Feels bad, but I'd rather just right click. This is the first version with a translation to Portuguese. I didn't spell that right. Of course I didn't spell it right. That's better. All right. Yes, this is a pre-release. Publish, and I need to include the binary file. Where is it? There's a place. Here we go. I'm going to select it. It is dev this over here in the bin under release, and not the, there it is, v6. There it is. Update. And now you can download and get that release. I'll be sure to tag this with a download link on the blog post that I'll send out a little bit later today. What do you say we take a look at a slightly different project? I want to take a look at something that I started on this morning to help me keep tabs of what I'm doing here on the stream. We'll come back and we'll add some more features to these a little bit later. I encourage you to continue sending pull requests. I want to continue adding features to these, but I want to get into one more project, so I have 3 projects we can kind of bounce around to during each stream. I want to take a look at something that's an ASP.NET Core. In this project that I'm taking a look at, what I'm working on, what I've started tinkering with here, and I haven't even allocated space on GitHub for it yet. I started tinkering on something that I'm calling Rundown, because I'm rundown. No. I want to keep track of, the process and the things that we're doing on stream. I want to have quite literally a checklist that I can show on stream. I want to put it somewhere here so that you can see the things that we've already covered in the stream, and so that you can see what's coming up and what are the things that I'm going to cover here on the stream. So I wrote this little thing that's outputting just a set of checkboxes with items, and it's quite literally, it's a notepad app, but I want to make the output embeddable in OBS. So here it is inside of Firefox, right? And these are the various things. Now, what I want to do with this is I want to have this interface embedded in the user interface here, right? In the video that I'm sending out to you. And I want to hide things that are checked, maybe, or have them scrolled off the top, something like that, so that you really can see here's what's coming up next, or here's what I'm currently doing, and here are the things coming up next. So, and then I want to have a admin screen where I'm checking these, and it's just updating my user interface, okay? And I think this is going to be the start of, you've already heard me complain about it a little bit on the stream here, where some of my widgets up top and over on the side, they're not updating all the way, right? I'm on multi-stream, I'm broadcasting to several locations, and I'm not getting all the content updating from all those sources immediately. So first things first, I'm building this, holy crow. I've got a scam caller hitting my cell phone here, and after I declined the first one, they called right back immediately. Anyways, I think we can hook up and write a simple ASP.NET Core project, a little website that will connect to Twitch and Mixer and whatever other resources we need, and generate some of these user interface things here. I'm a developer. I can rely on somebody else like Streamlabs building some of those interface things for me, but I can too. I can do that, and if I have this in an ASP.NET Core app, I can run it from a Docker image and start up and load all that data first time I start streaming, whenever I'm streaming. So, let's see, what do we got here? Bruno asks, are you planning to use some sort of MVVM to update one UI based on your admin? Exactly. You got it. Good minds think alike there, Bruno. Absolutely. So I was thinking of using SignalR, but my friends on the ASP.NET Core team, they're not quite ready with SignalR yet. It's still in a very early preview. It's not even in a preview. It's in a nightly. And I'm not sure I'm ready to tinker with nightlies yet. I think I can set up just a simple jQuery poll to get these values. And also because I'll be running in a Docker container, I don't really need a database to store some of these values. I feel like for right now I can just keep these values in memory, because when the Docker container shuts down, everything's going to disappear. Everything's going to go away. I don't want to save the state of things, okay? I could do that. I could save the state, but I'd rather when it opens up, go get the current state of everything, because I'm going to have to do that anyway, and then start running through things here. So that's where I want to go with this simple little project. So I've got 3 projects that are in flux here, right? We've got our configuration builders, and we'll come back and we'll do a little bit more work on the YAML configuration builder in a bit. And our friend Giancarlo is doing some work on the RSS configuration builder there. Very cool stuff. The extension is going great, and we're going to add some more features to that. I'm going to wait and see what my friend can do as far as getting some celebration graphics embedded in there. And then I want to take a look at building this, because I need some help making some of these gadgets and widgets on the stream look better. I grew quite frustrated with it, trying to set some of these up and looking at them last night. And don't get me wrong, they look nice, but there's bug fixes I want to submit, and I'm using Streamlabs.com. I can't submit pull requests to them. So I'm going to work on some of this. I want to make this open source, and we'll look at doing some of those changes. And I know some folks are interested in seeing some .NET Core development. So this is a .NET Core framework that I'm using. So I'll be pushing into a Linux-based container, and I'm doing all my development here in Visual Studio. Now I could also do my development in Visual Studio Code. And there were some suggestions earlier about doing Visual Studio Code, make it a little bit easier. Might come back to that. But for right now, I'm going to work over here in full Visual Studio, because I like it. Alright. Let's take a quick tour of this code. I'm using a Razor page just to output that list. We can make that list a little bit easier. But for this little to-do list, Check Digit says .NET Core is definitely interesting. It is. It's the new hotness that folks are starting to work with, and they want to learn a little bit more about. So I wanted to make sure that I started devoting some time on stream to looking at .NET Core. So this is just a simple list on a Razor page. We know it's a Razor page because it has the @page directive up top here. And it lives over here. There it is, index.cshtml. It's in a pages folder, and Razor pages, they are an MVC construct. Okay, if we look at our program CS, you'll see that this is a console application. It has a public static void main, and it starts up this web host, and our web host is actually using all the defaults right now. It's a simple console application hosting the ASP.NET web server called Kestrel. It was actually codenamed Kestrel, and the marketing folks said, yeah, you can continue calling it Kestrel. And man, we were happy. We didn't have to rename it to something like Microsoft ASP.NET Developer Web Server 2017.1++ sharp. Kestrel is kind of cool. So, all right, so configure services. This is the startup class. For those of you not familiar with ASP.NET, ASP.NET Core, ASP.NET Core starts with that program. It's embedded in a console project, so it can run on any platform, whether it's Windows, Mac, or Linux. And then it will call into and say, after the web server starts, hand over control to this startup class, and the startup class will configure how the web server is going to interact. So the startup class receives an iConfiguration object that has all the configuration for our application. And full confession, the configuration design over here was the inspiration for the Configuration Builders feature over in .NET Framework 4.7.1. The next method that's called is configure services, so that web server will call configure services to configure the built-in dependency injection framework. So anything we want to configure there, we can do. And there's some shortcut methods that are created, like add singleton, to add a single version, a single instance of an object into that dependency injection creator service. So every time you request that object, you get the same instance every time. And add MVC does a lot of stuff with adding singletons and transient objects so that you can see it and use it right here whenever you need an MVC object. All right. I gotta scroll a little bit now because my big head is inside the code. Look at that. Look at that. Look, Ma, I'm in Visual Studio. I'm not only on the team, but I'm in the product. All right. And then the final method that's called is configure. Now, configure is where we're configuring, and it says it right here in the default template. We're configuring the HTTP request pipeline. So these are the things that every HTTP request is going to go through to determine whether it should be processed, how it should be processed, how it should be modified before the content is returned to our visitors. So it does this configuration one time, executing these methods to do their configuration. But then the actual content, the actual delegate methods that they're pointing to will be executed each time through the pipeline. So follow with me. If we're in the development environment, and we are because we're on Visual Studio here, we're going to configure the developer exception page. So if there's an error, we'll use the developer exception page, and we're going to configure browser link. Browser link is our great developer tool from Visual Studio 2017 that allows us to interact with the content on the screen, update it, and make changes in Visual Studio and see it reflected immediately on screen. Very cool stuff. If we're not in the development mode, then we're going to have an exception handler pointing to the /error page. And actually, I deleted the error page, so this actually doesn't go anywhere. It'll create another error. We have to tell the server to serve static files, right? That's how secure by default everything is with this web server. Unlike IIS, in previous versions of ASP.NET, Kestrel, everything is turned off by default, and you have to light up features, right? We ran into some issues with that in the past where we had to go back and issue Patch Tuesday things to turn off features that by default turned on weren't that good an idea. Well, by default, everything is turned off here. And Bruno comments in the chat, portable web server is a really cool new feature. Yeah, we love it. It's nice and small, and because it's outside of Windows and the Windows production cycle, we can update it and push changes whenever they're ready. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. I'm going to say, is it Inside? Can I pronounce it as Inside? Is that how you pronounce your handle? I use .NET Core on work every day. We use it in production. That's awesome. Thanks so much for letting us know that. And if you have any feedback about that, let us know. You know, what works great. Why did you choose to use ASP.NET Core? I'd love to hear your experience. All right. So by default, static files aren't served. So you actually have to turn on and the static files feature needs to be added by saying use static files. And then the last method here, use MVC. This is similar to what we used to see in our global ASAX files, where we had to actually configure routing and tell ASP.NET that MVC is available. Now, Razor pages are part of MVC. So when you say use MVC, you also get the Razor pages functionality. So that's a little bit about how this starts. Now, my Razor page is a simple CSHTML page over here. And the Razor syntax is real easy to understand. It's even easier to understand than PHP markup. Yeah, PHP. Because all of your C# code that you want to execute server-side starts with an @ sign. So @ and then you can start with a curly brace, and then end with a curly brace, and everything in between is C# code that'll be executed. Or, if you do an @ sign and you start a block level element, when we see a less than symbol, I think it's that way, it'll trigger HTML mode, and it'll flip automatically, the Razor renderer will, into HTML, and it'll start rendering that code. And that's what you see here in Visual Studio. Visual Studio is giving us syntax highlighting to show us that this is C# code, this for each, and then this LI is HTML. That's HTML syntax highlighting. And that's why we get a little bit of this gray background around some of these things, because it's seeing that it's flipping back and forth between C# and HTML. Cool? All right. Moving on. So that's what's going on here. Now, in my code behind for this, yeah, we have code behind. It's not really a code behind. It's the page model for this, right? And we know how to use models in our Razor views from earlier versions of ASP.NET Core. But our page model is called this index model, and it's written into a code behind file. I can say that because I run web forms and I'm used to code behind, but it's kind of a code behind, not really. Don't say code behind around the folks on the ASP.NET Core team. They might take offense to it. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. It feels like a code behind, but it's not. It's the model that's being injected and used with that Razor template. And it inherits from page model. Now, remember I registered as a singleton that repository right here? Here's where I'm using it. It's being injected in the constructor here, and then I'm sticking it on this property so that I can reference it inside my view. So items is model repository get, and get is just returning a collection of rundown items. For each one, we're just going to write out a checkbox and the text that goes with it. And a rundown item is very simple. It has an ID, has some text, and some Boolean to indicate that it's been completed. Here we go. We chose it because we had Linux and Windows servers, and we would like to remove Linux or Windows. We could not remove Linux because of your databases. Okay, sounds like a pretty good choice. And you have that flexibility, you know. My supervisors would say you could still use Windows for some really great things. WCF is great on Windows, and there's some other great things over there like Active Directory. But it's your choice. It's your organization. I hope that ASP.NET Core and .NET Core helps you be more productive and do more with your resources there. So that's cool to hear. Thank you for that feedback. So that's how this is working. And my repository, I said this is in memory. It's really in memory. I have a public static read-only list. Public static read-only. There's only one of these. It's read-only, so it can't be overwritten with a new one. You have to actually modify the contents of it. And then here's that list of items that I had that I output to the screen by default. So that's the couple items that I have by default here. And then I have some very simple CRUD methods, right? CRUD is an acronym for create, read, update, and delete. It's a database acronym that folks like to use. So I have some CRUD methods here. So read, I'm doing a get. Create, there's my add. Update is update. And delete is delete. It should probably be read, you know, by default, so that it's more like CRUD. And add should probably be create. Yeah, whatever. Let's see. I have a comment here in the chat room. DJ Vortex. I got it. DJ Vortex. Cute. That's great. So I had a problem with the code behind when I copy pasted a CSHTML file to a duplicate something. It doesn't copy generate a code behind file with the paste. Is there a way to generate it post paste? No. So, right, it's not a code behind, it's a page model. So you could copy and paste that page model class along with it, and it'll go along for the ride. Yeah, and you should be all right with that. I'm going to continue saying inside. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Got to resolve problems with the deployment. Oh, good luck. Oh my gosh. Production calls. And that's when we all get to be a little bit of Superman or the fire department, right? When you got to go and save production, analyze log files, make sure things are working right. All right, so that's what's going on right now inside this, like I said, very simple project. And I don't want to get wrapped up in MVVM or anything a little bit crazy with Angular. I could add Angular into this, and I could have it update some of those things server side. Make a new extension to do it. Oh, look at that. CodeBytes TV. There's an interesting thing. So let me make sure I have your suggestion correctly. You're suggesting that it'd be great to have an extension so that when I right-click on a Razor page and I say copy and paste, that it pastes the content of the page model along with it. Didn't think to copy the CS file. I'll give that a shot next time. Thanks. Cool. I hope that works out for you, DJ Vortex. I like where you're going, CodeBytes. I think I'm going to need to start like a gist or something here with some cool ideas like that. Let me come back to that. Gosh, you guys are giving me all kinds of cool ideas here. So I want to make that checkbox update and set a checked state on these things so that it persists, so that I can have one browser down here, down below, that's going to be my admin console, and then I'll have the one that's embedded inside of OBS, inside my streaming software, and have that reflect what I'm updating in my admin console. CodeBytes says, could you right-click a file and say generate model or something? That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea at all. You know what? Let's do this. I'm going to open Notepad. Notepad, where all serious program managers take notes. DJ Vortex says that's what I was looking for originally. There might be some of my colleagues watching the stream right now. I don't know for sure, but there might be out there. But I'm going to take that suggestion, and they might be able to add that into a future version of Visual Studio instead of me, clumsy Jeff, trying to figure out how to do that. I might be able to get one of the professionals who builds these extensions to do that. On Razor pages, generate model to generate the companion page model class. That's not bad. No, don't save that. I'm just gonna... So, learn this from the boss. If I don't save this file, if I just leave it there, if Windows wants to reboot, it'll stop. It'll stop dead in its tracks because it's a dirty notepad. It hasn't been saved. So, haha! Thanks, guys. I'm gonna leave that hidden right behind Visual Studio here. Back to what I'm trying to accomplish here. So I've already got an update method written that's just going to delete the item that has the same ID and reinsert the item that we're trying to update, right? Very simple, very basic. I don't want to get into managing a database. I don't need that for this right now. We can refactor and add entity framework later if we wanted to. So let me, I'm keeping an eye on the time here. So I don't want to go over my 2 hours here. I've got some folks that want to have meetings at noon and that kind of thing. All right, so I have that there. I started creating a controller to receive some of this, and I told it to just generate the defaults, right? And run down item controller, and I changed the route to listen on API/items. So this route attribute up here specifies the beginning part of my address that this controller is listening on. Now, because this is a controller and I have methods named after these HTTP verbs, right? Get, post, put, and delete. By convention, if I receive that HTTP verb, it'll trigger that method if it matches any additional criteria in the incoming parameters, right? So for example here, I'm specifying get for a specific ID. Well, I'm going to receive that ID on the query string here and pass it in, okay? Excuse me. wet my whistle with good old Starbucks coffee. All right. And then I can use that and process that ID value to go get the appropriate values from my repository. So, I don't want to do post just yet. What I'm concerned about is the put, right? Put is the HTTP verb that coincides with update. Why couldn't we just do everything as create, read, update, and delete? Why does everybody have different verbs for these things? Feels bad. Anyways, I feel like I need a dictionary, a web to database guide dictionary, database folks dictionary. Because the web folks use one term and database folks use another term. And I know I've got some friends out there that say I should be returning HTTP status values here. And I'm not going to do that just yet. We can update that and make that a little bit cleaner, nicer later. Let me just take a look, make sure everything's cool here on streams. Good. All right, so I have a way to upload that stuff. And I don't really, and my index right now is really more of an admin page with the checkboxes. Have to run. Thanks, Jeff. All right, catch you later, CodeBytes TV. Thanks so much for joining us. And I'd love to know more about why CodeBytes TV. You know, is there something you're doing there that I can contribute to? Let's talk a little bit. You know how to get in touch with me. All right, so I want to put in an admin view so that I can have these checkboxes and actually have it push back. So, DJ Vortex, here's exactly what you were talking about. I want to copy and paste this and call it admin. And I'm going to run into exactly what you were talking about, where it didn't copy over, right? It did copy over the page model. It did it. I did a Control-C, Control-V. Let me do that again. Let me do that again. Yes, delete that. Delete this too. I'm going to do that one more time, DJ Vortex. I normally write context. Okay. So, copy. I'm going to left-click on pages, and I'm going to say paste. I get index-copy. And it copied over my CS file. Now, I'm using Visual Studio Update 5. This is 2017 Update 5. You'll see it in the About window as 15.5. But the feature that we were just talking about looks like it's there. All right. I'm going to move on. I'm going to rename this and call this admin, because it's going to be my admin view that has... Oh, look at that. It renamed my model CSHTML, but I want to make sure that... No, there we go. And let me rename this. And models just by convention, that's what it's called. So that... Okay. So I still have those over here, and the items when they're gotten, it's actually being ordered by the ID. So it should be lining up right. DJ Vortex, curious, maybe I need to update. I'll check that out. Cool. Okay. Excuse me. I hope it works out for you. I'm trying to come off mic here to make sure that I'm not. Coffee is giving me a little bit of reflux here. I don't know. All right, so now when I check these checkboxes, I want to trigger an update that pushes the information back to my rundown item controller, which is at API items. So let's start bringing in. I'm going to bring in jQuery because it's simple, it's easy to use. I don't have to do much thinking, and I don't like to think. So I'm going to bring in jQuery and put it right there. All I did was left drag jQuery from my Solution Explorer right here, and it embeds that script tag for me. So after that, script type equals text JavaScript. There we go. And right? I'm an old guy. I like doing this. I like telling the browser, this is an HTML comment. You shouldn't look at to parse this. So I'm used to putting the HTML wrapper around that. So now I want to hook up to every checkbox that when it's checked, we're going to go trigger an update on the server. So let me put a class on this. Yeah. And I'll just call these, yeah, let's just call it, well, if I call it checkbox, he's gonna, Bootstrap's gonna change that into a checkbox. Let's see how that goes. Let's see what happens with that. Excuse me, page load, page ready. Let's wire up a feature here. And I'm going to say dot checkbox, right? What is it? Checked? Is it change? Change. I wouldn't call it checkbox. Item? Nope. Check item. How's that? Alright, so my function that I'm going to call... Look at that, I'm starting to get handlers all the way down here. Let's see, so DJ Vortex just fired VS up. The file I was copying didn't have a CS file. It's like a template file, but I think I wanted to add a CS file for the model. That's where the problem was. Okay, there we go. So when this changes, right, because it's going to change to, well, I can, this item equals this, right? And then I'll be able to inspect the checked state. I'm going to need to put this together as a checkbox item, including the text that goes with it. So it's a checkbox that was checked. So let's go, this list item is going to be this item dot parent. Now that should give me, right, so it was this that was checked, so it should give me the LI. So now I should be able to create what that, I should be able to capture what the full context of that item, right? So item to update equals, right, and I should be able to do this. The ID value is going to be this list item dot, yep, ID, good. And then the text is going to be this list item dot text, cool. And then finally, the checked state, right? So inside of rundown item, I called it is completed. That value is going to be a Boolean, and it's going to be this item dot, is it dot checked or is it dot attributes? Is it dot attr checked? I think that'll work. This item. Item to update. Right? Isn't that the way you do the string interpolation in JavaScript now? Huh? I think that's it. You'd use backtick to get into those. You know what? I'm just going to string concatenate. Actually, no. If I string concatenate that, I won't be able to drill into it. Item to update. So I've created a JSON object here that looks just like what I want to update. I want to push back into the project. So now let's reach and do a $.ajax, right? And I want to do a. Oh, I need to specify my settings. Here we go. Ajax settings. So is it verb? What's the I want to make sure this is a put. So I don't think it's yeah, it's method. Okay. All right. And my URL. Right? Oh, see, I've lost my IntelliSense now. My URL is /API/items, and I'm going to pass in my ID on the query string, which is item to update ID. Haha, yeah, there we go. And I think that's it. I think that's all I need to do. Right? I think so. It's been too long since I've written some of this code. So let's take a look at what this looks like. I'm going to run this. I'm going to run it using Kestrel here from Visual Studio. So restore completed. I didn't change any of my configuration, any of my packages that I was referencing. Loading, good. All my cool diagnostics tools. And here comes my browser. Okay, so that's going to index. So now let me go to /admin. Okay, so I get the same content coming back. And not F11, bad choice. F12 is what I want. So let's take a look at the console. Make sure everything looks right here on the console. I don't see anything on the console. Let's reload. Nothing on the console. Anything in the debugger? Oh. Okay, let me check something and see what comes up. No root element found. Ah, look at that. All right, so my ID undefined. So it didn't find these objects properly. And yeah, the text came back as a function. So that's wrong. That didn't load right. That's bad. All right, now because I've done this inside my Razor view, I can actually come in and fix this a little bit, and it'll reload and show me the content. So here we go. All right, check one of these. All right, so it got some of this extra text in the front of it. But we didn't get some of these other things yet. Okay, so the checked attribute, it didn't find. I think, right, this doesn't look like it's pulling back the checkbox because the ID, right? Well, the ID should be coming off the list item. So let's do this. I'm going to console log those other items just to see what it is that I actually got. Now, there is a debugger that this will attach to Chrome or Edge, and you can use Visual Studio to step through and actually inspect and set breakpoints and look at these things. But I'm old and old school, and I like to look at what these things are. Okay, so the object is input.checkItem. So it did find it. It is the checkbox. Context and length. Okay, so if I take a look at that object, so the name is item 50. I'm going after the ID. All right. So this shouldn't be that. It should be. Well, it won't let me get after name. So can I do that? And this? Nope. That didn't work. If I look at the adder class, yeah. I know I can do something like get attribute name. Oh, wait a sec. Okay, feels really bad. It should be this item. Because I was going against, I'm confusing the checkbox and the list item. So now, there it is. I've got 40. Fantastic. All right, so I've got my, oh no, the 40 was the ID. Wait a second here. Is the ID on the list items. Wait, what? List item ID. Yeah, I want the parent, the ID of the HTML content. You're right, guys. You're right. There it is. Now I've got it. Okay. And the is completed is whether or not the item is this item attribute checked. So this item is the checkbox. So let's go this item 0 checked. Let's see if that works for me. There it is. Fantastic. And if I uncheck it, is completed false. Fantastic. All right. Now, no root element found. Well, I don't care. And that's why it's actually remembering these is, right? When I refresh, it's actually loading those out of memory. So it is doing that properly. All right. So I have that working. And it looks like my time is about up here today. So what I'm going to do, let me save this. So now I have basic checkboxes working. I have basic notepad functionality. And I've already included my Docker container features here. So I can build and put this inside of a Docker container. And I can run it from there. So I don't have to load all of Visual Studio or run things natively. I could just say Docker run, and it'll run there in the background for me. So I've already done that. So let's clean up. Let's create a repository out there on GitHub. Push this up there and close up, put our toys away for the end of the day here. So I'm going to go out. And I love just saying new repository. I can do this all day, right? New repository. And this is fritz.rundown. Handy tools for managing my live stream. Sure, I'll make it public. We'll initialize it with a README. Yep, we'll add a git ignore, and it's called Visual Studio is the git ignore. And I will MIT license. Home in the UK. Cool, that's great. All right, let's clone this. We're gonna grab that. And I'm going to do a git init here. Cool. Git remote add origin. There we go. Git pull, origin, master, set the, no. Cool. So now I have all that content here, so now I can add in my files. Right, if I do a git status, yep. Git add everything, git status, all my files, that's fine. First commit. Cool. Now I have something in master. Let me set my upstream. So now I can just say git push. Don't have to worry then about specifying the locations as my default. So now git, yeah. And now my code is saved out on GitHub. All right, quick recap. We took a look at pull requests for our configuration builders. I like what Giancarlo's working on. I hope to see some more there. I'll have to come back in the next stream or two and do some more work on our configuration builders. We spent some time looking at Epic Build Music, and we learned a little bit more about how to work with Visual Studio extensions. Took in a great pull request from Ian and Bruno. Thanks so much for your contributions there. The user interface in our options dialog looks a little bit better, and I issued a release so that you can get the new user interface and a Portuguese translation. And finally, I started showing you a little project I put together because I got frustrated with managing some things as the stream's getting a little bit more complex, a little more complicated for me to manage, called Rundown. And this is in ASP.NET Core. I want to put this into a Docker container so I can start it up and embed that web content right here in OBS for you to be able to see as I'm administering it and going through my checklist over off screen. So I think that's all for today. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll have a wrap-up posted over on my blog, jeffreyfritz.com, and we'll have and the video from today will be shared over on YouTube as well, and of course, it'll be embedded on that blog post as well. So once again, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you join me tomorrow, Wednesday. I'll be doing a stream at about 2 in the afternoon Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Time, so that some of our friends on the Pacific coast of the United States, they can see and maybe interact. I'm trying out another time or two here just to see if it works for some of our other friends. So my next stream will be tomorrow, and we'll pick up where we left off. I think we'll continue with this project, and we'll start looking at adding some new features. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope to see you then, Wednesday at 2.